Teams are trying to make the playoffs down the stretch. One of them is Dallas. That ain't going to happen. And we're going to tell you why it ain't going to happen right now on Locked On NFL.
The barbershop is open and Tony Wiggins has a chair for you. He's ready with some real NFL talk. The local experts of Locked On bring their expertise, and Wiggy is ready with his clippers and shears. Sit down and enjoy. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
It is your team every day. Welcome to the new Locked On NFL, bringing you a double dose of the NFL's biggest stories with the help of our local experts that know your favorite teams like no one else. I'm the host, the barber, Tony Wiggins, joined today by Locked On NFL expert Chris Carter. On today's episode, or on our lineup, you go to barbershop, you got to get a lineup, right? On today's episode, we're going to end up talking about Thursday Night Football. Those Jets are back on primetime TV again against the Houston Texans that have their own issues that they have to deal with. We're going to hang out in the NFC and the AFC North. We're going to get the perspective from Chris on Jameis Winston. Can he eat those W's? Can Jameis keep eating those W's and be the next reclamation project? Chris shaking his head already. Be the next reclamation project for the NFL at the quarterback position. We're going to start talking about the Cowboys and the week-to-week disaster that they are and have been for quite a long time, and see if they can do something to turn their playoff hopes around. Crossover Thursday is what this is. All across our network, Thursday's episode is presented by Prize Picks. All of our crossover episodes, download the app and use the code Locked On NFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. My man Chris Carter, it's been a couple of weeks since I saw you. A lot has happened. Some teams have gotten hot. The Dallas Cowboys is not one of them. You cover a team that, to me, I always say this, they are the epitome of functionality. They've had three head coaches in my life, and I'm 55 and I got grandkids. That's crazy. When you look at Dallas, it is the total opposite over the last 30 years under Jerry Jones. Give me your assessment of what you think they are, and whether or not this week-to-week mess can figure out a way to salvage their season this year.
Well, listen, the Cowboys were up against supernatural powers this year that I warned Cowboys fans about, that nobody wins the NFC East back-to-back. It hasn't happened for 20 years, and it wasn't going to happen this year, so there was that. But they're also up against some more things than that. This team had a tough decision in the offseason to pay Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb, and if they didn't, they were going to lose one or both of those guys. They paid both of them, but they needed the rest of the team to be there, and they haven't been healthy. Micah Parsons has been out. They've been missing the Marcus Lawrence. They've been missing key factors in the defense, because this team was supposed to be a balanced defense with a talented offense that was led through its passing game. Its running game has been terrible. Its defense hasn't been able to be elite. And now you're seeing when those things don't come together, they're 3-4 to start. And what makes that 3-4 start more painful, because you know what, that wouldn't be so bad in the NFC West right now, where three teams are tied at 4-4. But when you're in the NFC East right now, the Commanders out to a 6-2 start, playing really well. The Eagles out to a 5-2 start, playing really well. You're only one game ahead of the Giants. That's a tough place to be for the Dallas Cowboys, especially because right now you look at a division like the NFC North. Every team in the NFC North has a better record than you right now. So even if you're saying, okay, well they won't win the NFC East, but they'll be able to make the playoffs as a wild card. It ain't looking that easy right now. They're going to have to do some serious turning around to be able to pull that off. As it stands right now, they are the 13th seed in the NFC. So they would have to climb over the Bears, the Bucks, the Niners, the Seahawks, the Rams. And listen, it's possible, because there's quite a few of those teams that I don't believe in. The Bears, I want to see them do it more consistently. The Buccaneers, they're really hurt up right now. The Niners are really hurt up right now. The Seahawks have been inconsistent. The Rams have been inconsistent. So if Dallas can find its footing, it can get up in there. But it has to find its footing and beat some of the other teams up there, because right now the 7th seed is the 5-2 Eagles, and the 6th seed is the 5-2 Vikings, and then the 5th seed wild card is a 6-2 Packers team. That's a lot of tough competition right now.
It's a lot of stuff to get through. Expectations are everything, and you can hear it in the disappointment of both Marcus Mosher and Landon McCool on Locked On Cowboys.
How will the rest of the 2024 season play out for the Dallas Cowboys? Belena, let's start with this first question. There's a lot of people that want to know what our expectations are for the rest of the 2024 season. How do you see the next 10 games or maybe 14 games playing out for the Cowboys?
I mean, I feel like we say this week to week, right? But it really kind of depends on exactly how things go this week, right? Like, I really do think that this is kind of the last gasp of opportunity to kind of turn this season around in 2024.
Man, you're halfway through the year, and that's how you're thinking, Chris. That's a bad place to be in. It's like,
that's the jeez. It's week 8, man. It's week 9. What has happened?
I know it's like whatever happens this week. Now, I'm gonna do this for Cowboy fans. I'm gonna do this for NFC East fans. I'm gonna show you the flip side of this. I'm gonna show you the flip side where they don't have all of these big needs on the offensive line and paying all of these people all this money and trying to figure it out. I'm sure your team that's doing everything in a fiscally responsible way. And look at what they're shopping for as they try to add to their 6-2 season. Look at what they talk about what they need. This is Washington and my man James Harrison with Locked On Commanders.
Some potential players that are available near the trade deadline, according to NFL.com insiders, include Jets wide receiver Mike Williams. And of course, a lot of you guys want edge presence. You want a pass rusher, Browns defensive end or outside linebacker, edge rusher, Zadarius Smith. He's a veteran. He's a straight up mercenary. Wouldn't hate the move by any means. Cornerback, Greg Newsome, also from the Cleveland Browns, is someone that has drawn some interest and that the NFL.com insiders are reporting might be available. He is a guy that you could look at as more of a long-term guy, young cornerback, first-round pick of the Cleveland Browns a few years back. J.C. Horn is my dream pick. To be a trade candidate. The Carolina Panthers are reportedly not having a fire sale, even though they just traded Deontay Johnson. Another cornerback, the NFL.com insiders are reporting is available. Patriots cornerback Jonathan Jones, NFL.com says, is a solid candidate to move.
See, this is what I'm talking about. My man David Harrison, I always call him James by accident. David Harrison is just sitting there telling you this is specifically what they need, but it's not something that's earth-shattering because covering teams that have been to the playoffs, you ain't going out there finding the impact person that's going to flip your whole season at this point.
No, yeah. I think that's the thing is that right now you're eating your vegetables, but eating your vegetables, it's good. It's good. It's good when you've been on the diet already. It's good when you've been working out. It's good when you've been moving forward. But eating your vegetables ain't the only thing that's going to get you ready for the marathon, and that's what the Cowboys are kind of at right now. Is you know what they've been eating a little bit of junk food. They've been having a few cold ones, and now they're kind of in a position where it's like okay they can make some trades to try to clean themselves up, but they're not going to be fully ready. Whereas the Commanders, they've set themselves up with a healthy diet so far, so now they can make some moves that put them in a healthier position. And then when you keep eating vegetables there and you make a smart trade that gives you solid depth, that addresses a position of need, that balances some things that you ain't been getting right, now you're in a better place to do that at 6-2 at the head of your division. So that's something that the Commanders I think are doing right now. And listen, the Cowboys, again, we can talk about Jerry Jones, we can talk about Mike McCarthy, we can talk about the organization as a whole all we want. Part of it are the gambles that you make on the roster that you build. And when you have a top heavy or a team when it comes to salary and the things you got to pay, it is going to require you to hit really hard on depth pieces. The team that I cover, the Steelers, they went through that in the mid to late 2010s where they had Ben Roethlisberger, Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, Marquise Pouncey, David DeCastro. They paid for all those heavy hitters on offense, and they needed, and then when Ryan Shazier was gone for there, they needed to hit on smaller picks at linebacker, smaller picks at edge rusher, smaller picks at cornerback, and they weren't able to do that, and that's why they didn't really capitalize on that era, and that's kind of where the Cowboys are. And the problem is, like you're saying, they haven't hit on enough of those, and now they're trying to make big moves that are going to try to fix some of those problems. That's just a tough place to be in, and it's just the reality of the NFL. When you sign one of those big quarterback contracts, you better not only get right that quarterback contract, you better have right a lot of other things around that quarterback.
Yep, and Dallas traditionally has done well over the years early in the draft. I mean, Jerry Jones has picked some really, really good players over the years. It's just that's not team building. And team building, I think, is what you're talking about, where you're able to use those day 2 and day 3 resources to actually get better. And there's no way around it. You can't outwork a bad diet. And I'm going to let you know right now, Chris Carter, I am going to steal that analogy that you talked about with those vegetables because I'm king of analogies. We're going to get into Jameis Winston here in segment number 2. Can Jameis keep this up and be the next quarterback that everyone says we gave up too quickly? Or am I speaking too fast? I'll talk about that in just a second here on Locked On NFL. Today's show is sponsored and brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. That's right. Now listen to me, man. I'm going to give it to you just like this. 5 Hour Energy, they know that being passionate about football isn't just a hobby, it's a way of life. It takes a lot of energy to power through all-day tailgates, touchdown celebrations, and agonizing second overtimes and Hail Marys. So if you're in Washington or Chicago, you know exactly what I'm talking about. A big play at the end of the game. Oh, I think Tyreek Stevenson probably should have been on some 5 Hour Energy. He would have been where he was supposed to be. 5 Hour Energy knows that no matter what team you root for, being a fan requires heart, soul, and a whole lot of energy. Whether you're prepping for the big tailgate or ironing your jersey, your game day to-do list is always a mile long. That's why the limited edition Stand the 5 Hour Energy shot is here to help you keep fueled throughout the season. What's your fan fuel this week? Whatever it is, do it with 5 Hour Energy, available on 5hourenergy.com, shipped nationwide. All right, running along here on Locked On NFL with my man Chris Carter from Locked On NFL and Locked On Steelers here. Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston is an interesting story for me because Jameis Winston played at Florida State, which is the team that I support, which I'm kind of embarrassed to say this year because Chris Carter covers the Pittsburgh Panthers and they're running away, them and Clemson with the ACC and Florida State struggling. But those were better days back then, and I thought Jameis Winston was going to be really, really good, and he is good. It's just that he does something that's really, really bad, Chris, and that's throw interceptions. And that's a no-no in the NFL for a quarterback.
It's a big no-no. And here's the thing. You look at his stats last week, and you're like, whoa, wait a second. This looks amazing. This guy threw for 27, 40, 41, 334, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. That's a pass rate of 115.3. Jameis Winston is back, baby. It's the Florida State days all over again. Hey, Tony, you remember the Florida State days. He was pretty good in college.
Yeah, man.
And you look at the tape and you realize that the Ravens dropped not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 interceptions in that game. So it was thrown right to them. And look, the Ravens and Kevin Ostreicher will tell you they're going through it in their secondary. They got things to clean up there. That defense has been really suspect against the pass. I would pump my brakes just a little bit on the Jameis Winston stuff, especially because we've seen Winston. He is a guy that brings the highs and the lows, and he was fortunate that the Ravens secondary did not capitalize on his lows. Otherwise, he would have at least thrown 1 interception that would have cost them the game. I think when the Browns play teams with better secondaries, it might be a rougher go. He deserves credit for the win. They did a good job there. But I need to see a little bit more from a 2-6 Browns team that's been wildly inconsistent. And, frankly, I'm just not sure if they're going to be able to turn everything around just like that. And this was supposed to be their year. It's been supposed to be their year for like 6 years now. And they continue to flop. It's why I tell people, hey, don't buy in. Don't buy in. They're the Cleveland Browns. Like we talked about the Cowboys organizational problems. The Browns got bigger problems. And so, I look at this and I'm sorry. I think Jameis Winston will have some good games in the future. I think that he will light up some scoreboards in the future, but I also think he'll light up some interception boards again. And when all's said and done, I think the Browns, like I said at the beginning of the season, they're going to finish in last place in the AFC North. Unless, who knows, maybe the Bengals defense is just that bad. But I think the Browns will be the team that stays in the basement.
I got a little smile on my face, man, because, in the barbershop, we remember everything, and we up in everybody's business. I remember when we first started doing this, I told you something to Jeff Lloyd. And Jeff Lloyd was sitting up there proud, and you was shaking your head like, I tell Jeff every year, nope, don't do it. And then Ostreicher, I didn't realize that, 5 out of 6 the Steelers have beaten the Baltimore Ravens?
7 out of 8.
Oh, okay. Excuse me. It's 7 out of 8, right? So I saw the AFC squad show from the other night, something that you guys get together. We all get together every week and just kind of have cocktails a little bit and talk about football. I saw you.
Whoa, Tony, what you be doing in the background? I'm drinking on some H2O over here.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, coffee's a cocktail, right? All right. So look, I saw you, Ostriker, and Jeff Lloyd. I had to pull this clip about the Browns and about Jameis Winston. Look at the look on your face. You just sit up there like you just so sure that you're the baddest man in the room from the AFC North. Now look at this.
But the Browns coming out on top. Jameis Winston eating W's after the game. Jeff, started off on your end. What happened there in that Browns game? Then we'll kick it to Kevin.
Look, there was so much that went into that week. Look, 1-6, like, you know what 1-6 means, just to say that number. We can't lose again. Not that anybody really thinks they're probably going to go on a run that may save this, although the AFC is a little quirky so far this year. But when Kevin and I did the crossover, I'm like, look, this change needed to happen a month ago, and it only needed to happen to put Jameis Winston in to see if, hey, was it just the quarterback? And look, not everything was going well. Not much of anything was going well. But the offensive line was starting to get healthier, and I told Kevin, I said, look, this is the first time we know what the unit is on Wednesday.
Hey, man, look, I gave Jeff his minute. They won a game. He feels really good. But he kind of pumped the brakes a little bit, and he kind of said some of the things like, is it the quarterback? No, it's not just the quarterback. I think there's probably going to be wholesale changes in Cleveland. I just don't know where they go from this point personnel-wise because of the Deshaun Watson contract.
Yeah, and like my face in there wasn't anything. Honestly, during that show, I was handling my other. I had other duties to do. Like that's the thing. That was why it was my first ever squad show because I'm always busy on Tuesday night. Always covering a college basketball game or something. So that was more so me trying to manage something while I was on camera for Locked On at the time. But it's been a problem. Deshaun Watson has been bad, and here's the thing. I don't know that Jameis Winston's a better option than Deshaun Watson, but that's not a high bar right now. I think that this is a Browns team that hasn't found much consistency right now, and they still have talent on defense. They can still be tough, but I don't think that's going to be the ultimate answer for them this season. You go and you look at what they're going to have to do this season to pull things out. For example, this weekend. You got a tough task with the Chargers. They play really good defense. They're the number one defense in the NFL right now. You do get the Saints after your bye week, but then you still got 2 games with the Steelers. The Broncos are 5-3. You got the Chiefs. You got the Bengals again in Cincinnati. The Dolphins, who knows where they'll be like in December because they haven't been good. But then you got to play at Baltimore again. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games, 7 games in this last stretch here that I think that they probably won't be favored in, and they're going to need to pull off probably all 7 of those to be simply in playoff contention, right? So I think it's a tough road for them to haul right now. I don't know what all they do to bounce back at this point. And the Browns, I just think with the players that they've assembled, the roster they put together, I'm not so sure that this is how many more times the Browns get to say, okay, next year with Myles Garrett, because the Steelers fans been saying that about TJ Watt, like, hey, TJ Watt's been awesome for all these years, and him and Garrett came in the same year, but it'd be nice to get some more success than just going 13-3 or 12-4 and not really getting to the Super Bowl, the AFC Championship game. So they're going to need. I think they need to. They need to strike, but I don't know if there's enough to strike with this year that's going to save the season.
So I'm gonna park right here. I'm gonna pivot a little bit because since I got here, I want to talk about I think the AFC North is very intriguing because of these reasons. Baltimore has 2 losses that I think are kind of atrocious, right? It's like, yuck, how did you lose those games? And then they look so good against these other teams. And everyone keeps saying Pittsburgh at 6-2. I don't believe it. Well, what don't you believe? They block, they tackle well, they can rush the passer, they run the football, and they're getting very efficient play from their quarterback. I think this matchup is a little bit closer than people think, considering also the history, the recent 7 out of 8, like you just said, not 6 out of 7, it's 7 out of 8, and the fact that this is a rivalry, man. And when Baltimore loses these games this way, that means that there's some little things that are missing. They made a trade for Deontay Johnson. You know him very well. Do you think it helps? What are they getting in him?
Listen, I covered Deontay Johnson for years in Pittsburgh. Deontay Johnson is one of the best route runners in the NFL. He gets separation, he gets open, and he can be a real asset to an offense. But he also, I think that he also has plenty of fault that Steelers fans will know. Like there's a lot of Steelers fans that are like, oh, go ahead. I'll just see what you can do with them. But I think some Steelers fans, they say that, whenever something like that happens and they want to dismiss things. And listen, I think Diontae Johnson comes with his set of issues. He's not he's not the most consistent with his hands. Oftentimes when he gets the ball in his hands, he jumps backwards or he makes mistakes or he doesn't all the way focus in. And that's what Steelers fans will harp on about his lowlights of when he was with the Steelers. But here's the thing. If you're ever asking Diontae Johnson to be the number one player in an offense, the way the Steelers were kind of trying to do when they signed him to the contract that they did, they hoped that he could be the number one wide receiver. That's where he's not going to shine. He's not going to be the number one guy that you want to take the attention away from. He is not the number one guy in the Ravens offense.
No.
One, Lamar Jackson's going to be running the show, but two, Zay Flowers is already there and getting good attention. Mark Andrews is getting good attention. Derrick Henry's getting all the attention at times. So now he can kind of be your third, fourth option as far as what you want in this offense, and that's a good place for him to be where he can be very dangerous because if the defense has to focus on him as the third, fourth, or fifth guy that they're most scared of. Now he can do a little bit more. He can actually create more space and he doesn't have, double teams coming for him. He doesn't have the best cornerback on the other team pressing him every single play. That could be a place where Diontae Johnson is dangerous. And I do think that the Ravens got better for it. I just think that the Ravens are bigger problems. I looked at the Ravens team. I'm like, it's not offense that's plaguing them right now. It's not a lack of receiver that's plaguing them right now. It's the lack of pass defense. And I thought some guys in their secondary would have been a bigger trade for them. That would have been the vegetables, in my opinion, for them to go get.
There you go. And we just heard David Harris mention a whole bunch of little corners that might be available, and maybe Pittsburgh isn't done. Real quick, they haven't played Baltimore yet. Pittsburgh and Baltimore. When is the first of those two games?
When is that first? We got November 17th in Pittsburgh, and then December 21st in Baltimore.
I think both of them are going to be outstanding. I think that second game, though, it might be for something, and it might be one of the most watched games of the season, and rightfully so. All right, we're going to get to the Jets, the hot green fungus up in New York, talk about them on Thursday Night Football, why they might have an actual chance to win a game against a really good team. We'll talk about it more here on Locked On NFL. Today's show is sponsored and brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. I had to say it. They're number one. And you need to make sure that you tackle the NFL action with FanDuel because right now, new customers can bet $5, get $150 in bonus bets if you win. I'll say it again. If you win, $150 in bonus bets with your first $5 bet. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every move and every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Today's show is also sponsored and brought to you. Built Rewards is the real deal. You can earn points on your rent and redeem them towards your next payment. Ain't nothing like paying your rent every month thinking that it's just going somewhere and you ain't getting nothing for it. I'm telling you, it gets on your nerves, right? Everyone wants to make sure that they at least feel like they're getting something back. And what has happened is Built Rewards has come up with ways for you to save money because of the neighborhood rewards program that hooks you up with points on your rent every month. Pay your rent and watch the Built points roll in. You can use your points to book fitness, studio classes, redeem them towards future rent payment. They're designed to meet your lifestyle. Earn points by paying rent now when you go to join Built.com. That's BILT.com/LockedOnNFL. It's join Built, JOINBILT.com/LockedOnNFL. Make sure to use our URL code so they know we sent you. Join Built.com/LockedOnNFL to start earning points with your rent payments today. All right, rolling along here on Locked On NFL on a Thursday edition with my man Chris Carter. Carter critiques on Twitter and other social media apps. You can find him also on the Locked On Steelers podcast each and every day. Thursday night football, of course. Once again, we got the Jets in primetime. It seems like the Jets are primetime viewing every single week, and I don't mind it because I don't mind seeing a disaster just on fire rolling down the hill. And Aaron Rodgers kind of brought this on himself. My man John Butchko will tell you right now what he thinks about all of the money they spent in New York and whether or not it's worth it.
The Jets in 2024, they go down as like an all-time bust team. They go down with like the dream team the Eagles had in 2011. They go back with the early Dan Snyder team in Washington when they signed Deion Sanders and Bruce Smith. You want to go to other sports, the Lakers in 2012 and 2013. They had Kobe Bryant and Pau Gasol, and they traded for Steve Nash and Dwight Howard. And the team that I compared the Jets with last week, the 1992 New York Mets, who had a book written about them, the worst team money could buy, a Mets team that had a lot of stars on it and finished in 5th place in a 6-team division. And a week ago, after the Jets were blown out by the Pittsburgh Steelers, I said the Jets were were football's version of the worst team money could buy. But I got to be honest with you. I think after losing to the Patriots, they're worse than the worst team money could buy. It's tough to believe how bad this team is right now. They just lost to maybe the least talented team in the NFL.
I think there was way more wrong with that team than Robert Salah. If Robert Salah, what was wrong with that team from the very beginning, man, it's like they turned it over to a dude that doesn't have great leadership qualities, in my opinion.
I think a lot of people in the country said this when they saw Robert Salah get fired. They're like, all right, Aaron Rodgers better carry him, and he ain't carrying him right now. And I think there's Robert Salah can sit on the couch. But again, it comes back to organizational integrity. It's something that I talk about a lot. You see it with the good teams, even if they're not always good. They set themselves up with class. They set themselves up with good structure. They know how to run their organization, and that when when those processes that are naturally well put together, they start to come together. They put you in a position to eventually be relevant and eventually be competitive, and it comes from a good place. When you fire your head coach and you don't even let him talk to the team before he leaves, and it's not for cause, it's not like he did something that terrible or racist or something that he was just completely that's never a good sign. And the fact that they fired him and then escorted him out of the building, didn't even let him talk to the team before he was let go. And the visual that it gives that, hey, Aaron Rodgers runs this organization right now, not a good sign. And it's something that the Jets, I think, are going through right now, that it's going to be painful because, like you said, and like John was saying, this is a team that loaded up. This is a team that was supposed to be the stuff this year. There were people talking about this team like they were Super Bowl favorites, like they were going to be a problem in the AFC playoffs.
I was guilty.
And I was sitting here like, man, I got to see it first with the Jets, man, because it's even beyond Aaron Rodgers and Will McDonald and Garrett Wilson and eventually Devontae Adams and all these other guys. I'm like, it's the Jets, man. They find ways to mess things up, and they have messed this up terribly. Jets fans are no pain. John Butchko isn't alone here. You look at Mike Greenberg on ESPN, and he just looks to the sky and screams "Why?" at night, and it's just like I think it's a rough place for them. I think they'd be lucky to even be in this game with the Texans. Right now they're 2-6, staring 2-7 in the face. This is going to be a long haul.
Here's why I give them one shot tonight. I think Houston should beat them, and I like DeMeco Ryans as a coach. Houston's interior offensive line has been atrocious this year. The Jets' best player on defense is Quentin Williams, an All-Pro. Their other best players are at corner with Reed and Sauce Gardner. And both of Houston's receivers are banged up. Stephon Diggs is out for the year, and Nico Collins is trying to come back, but I don't think he's going to make it with a hamstring. I just think that sets up for a disaster, in my opinion, for them. But the Jets have to be able to capitalize on it. I like Houston. Houston's been a little bit of a disappointment, but I think the injuries have had a lot to do with it. You think they make any noise down the stretch in the AFC? They're probably going to win the division because the division is terrible.
So long as CJ Stroud is the quarterback, they got a good chance to make some noise. They got injuries, they got problems, but listen, CJ Stroud's a bad young man. I do not count that brother out. So I think they make some noise. I don't know about their whole team just yet. I haven't studied them too much this year because your boy covers a lot of things here in Pittsburgh. He's covering a 7-0 college football team, and basketball season's right on the corner, while I'm also doing the Steelers and breaking their things down. But and the Texans aren't on their schedule. But I do catch like here and there what they're doing, and I'm like, hey, I still like what CJ Stroud's putting together. I think they'll figure it out. Will they be able to beat the Bills or beat the Chiefs in the postseason? Who knows? But I do think that the AFC is a lot more open than people think. That people may think when you look at these records. So the Texans, though, they're right up in it. They're the 2 seed right now. So yeah, I think they can make some noise.
No doubt about it, man. It's always fun to have Chris Carter Critiques on the X app here with us on Thursday here on Locked On NFL. It's his day. Chris, tell us everywhere they can find you and where they can find your work, bro.
Thanks for having me, Tony. I'm Chris Carter. You can find me here on the Locked On Podcast Network, on Locked On Steelers, every Monday through Friday on your favorite podcasting apps and on YouTube. Like this video if you enjoyed. Subscribe to this YouTube channel to get all your Monday through Friday episodes. You can also find me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all my social medias at Carter Critiques on social media. You can also read my work at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, post-gazette.com, where I cover the Steelers, Pitt football, Pitt basketball, all things there with film breakdowns, in-depth stories, all things there. So check me out at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette and the Locked On Podcast Network.
There you go, man. A man with a lot of jobs is a man that's in demand because he does those jobs very well. And he'll do it every morning here on Thursday morning with us here on Locked On NFL for the Barbershop Afternoon Show. Make sure you tap in the morning to see Tyler Rowland going at it again. The madman is off the chain, man. He'll give you the NFL stories with local experts just like Chris that you can't get anywhere else. And I'll come right back and follow behind him on lunchtime here on the Locked On NFL, where we do a double dose of NFL shows every single day. Make sure you tap in wherever you listen or hear your podcast. And we thank you for joining us once again. Until next time, we'll see you later.